There really is nothing worse than being stuck on a plane or a train or an automobile and then encountering this.
Ugh.
Right?
You know what that is? It's a foot.
It's somebody's sweaty travel foot.
Yes, curly toes in between where you're sitting. Or how about this? Check this one out.
That's someone's hair over the seat. Okay, so here was a few tips on how to deal with unexpected moments while you are traveling is our etiquette expert, Lisa Orr. Thank you for being here today. Hopefully everybody was so polite to you when you walked in through the door.
They were fabulous, as always. Wonderful.
Okay, good.
Good, but the not so wonderful. We're talking about that today. Okay, so let's start with looking at two posts, shall we? Which might be all too familiar for most of us. So here's one. What should we do when a fellow passenger rests their feet, sometimes bare feet, near us? What do we do? Like, see that there? See the foot there? And let's say you're sitting in that spot.
So it's typically not appropriate to go barefoot in public places. So this is a no-no to start. So the first thing we're going to tackle is the barefoot. One very effective tactic is to use a little bit of embarrassment and shame. Sounds a little mean, but it can be effective and reduces the drama. So you may let them know, I don't think you realize that you can catch worms on planes if you're barefoot. So you may want to put your socks on.
You would say that?
I would.
Like that would be your opening line?
It would be. I would say, I'm sure you didn't realize, but you could catch worms on the plane if you go barefoot.
That's kind of funny.
I would say, and it's a little bit embarrassing, a little bit shameful. And then once you've done this lovely thing for them to make sure they don't get worms, then you're going to let them know, once their feet are crossing, would you mind now just putting your foot over to the side? Because you've already done something very nice for them and have helped them avoid contracting a terrible disease.
Okay, Lisa, I gotta tell you, that seems a little passive-aggressive, right?
Yeah,
so
a
what
little
happens
bit.
if they come back to you with some aggression?
So if it escalates, don't engage. If it escalates, don't engage, ask a flight attendant and get some backup. Again, you haven't been aggressive so much as saying, I'm worried about you that you might get worms, right? So it's not necessarily harsh.
You picked worms is the thing.
Because no one likes worms.
It's true.
People might say viruses, bacteria, I'm not really sure. Yeah. Worms, nobody wants worms.
Is there any sort of, do you have any kind of recourse? Is there any sort of law? Because I can imagine somebody saying, well, I paid for this seat, so deal with it.
And so we all have sort of the general codes of conduct. We agree to the way that we behave while we travel. Most airlines will have a certain set of guidelines for passengers as to how they're expected to behave, and then flight attendants have the ability to take action. Each airline is going to have its own set of rules. So, I mean, if you're particularly nasty on a flight, obviously that airline can deal with you.
I feel like it should be written in the rules. Please don't take your socks off. All right,
Yes.
There are some other problems, going from, head to toe. So we've seen the toe, let's see the head. I haven't had this happen to me before, but this is a big thing on social media. This is people flipping their hair and then it covering either the tray or the screen of the person behind them.
Yeah.
Gross.
Well, so here's the thing. If I've had periods of time where I've had quite long hair, and you can't feel the end of your hair. So I think the first step is to give the person who's got the hair dangling the benefit of the doubt. And you're going to tap them on the shoulder and say, I'm sure you didn't realize that your hair is hanging over the back of my seat. And, I wouldn't want it to get caught in the tray while I put my tray up.
That's good.
And so you're being very thoughtful, saying, I don't want to snag your hair in my tray. And they certainly don't want their hair snagged in your tray.
Can you not just, snag it and then they get the point?
Like pull on it?
So you could...
Get your children
excuse me.
You could pull, but that, again, back to this aggressive part, that could cause
I guess that's
problems.
physical assault.
Yes, we should not
We
do
could
that.
get ourselves into
Don't do
trouble
that.
it could get ourselves in trouble on the flight, so...
Okay, I've seen this a couple of times. Let's take a look at this. How do we deal with passengers taking up so many seats? We've all seen this, right? Taking up so many seats. They've got their bags beside them, taking up 2 or 3 seats, or they're sleeping. How do we deal with that?
So if you're in an airport or a situation where there's lots and lots of extra capacity, this isn't typically an issue, right? And in that photograph, there's a little extra room. I mean, it's not ideal, but I think we're all a little accommodating. Maybe there's some reason you needed to lie across. But when you've got a situation where space is a very precious commodity, that's when it becomes a problem. And really, the only option you have there is to engage your transportation staff and say, there's a person who's doing this, you need to kind of enforce those codes of conduct. Because as an individual, if they're not impacting you directly, it's really a bridge too far.
All right, well, that one's inconvenient, but some of these, well, they're just gross. I talked about people who are clipping their nails in church, but I have seen people do this on a plane where they're doing the grooming and their fingernails are going everywhere. So, what's the best way to approach somebody who's doing this?
So if they're sitting directly next to you, you have to say something, because otherwise you could have flicks of bits of them in your meal while you're dining and having your flight. So what you're going to let them know is, I'm sure that you would rather, would you like me to move out of the way so that you can go to the washroom to handle that sort of, those grooming elements in privacy? Because I'm sure you don't want to do them right here. So you're going to use a little shame, a little embarrassment, like I'm sure that you couldn't possibly, as a normal person, want to do this right here.
Lisa, can I ask you quickly, as Canadians, I feel like we often try to avoid confrontation and avoid the discomfort. Listen, if you're on a long flight and you're starting out with a sort of back and forth attitude, that's a long time to be stuck next to someone who's mad at you.
Absolutely. If it's something, so again, we've used the strategy is more passive-aggressive, things that you can recover from. If it's something where you feel there's no way you're going to be able to tackle this passenger, again, speaking with your flight attendants really early in the process. Often they can help you out and find you a different seat. It may not be a great seat, but be prepared to move out of the way. It's very difficult to get that passenger moved.
All right, Lisa Orr, this is good that you came to address this with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.